We've been working with libraries, events, and clips throughout this entire course, so hopefully the general structure of media management makes sense to you. In the previous movie, we looked at a lot of ways that we can copy and move our assets around the Final Cut environment, and here we're going to touch on a few more things. Speaking of which, if you watched the previous movie, you know that I closed my main Project Reload library because I didn't want to mess it up as we learned to copy, move, and delete our material. I do still have the demo library and the training library that I set up in the previous movie. In fact, I'm in the exact state that I left off. So feel free to watch that to set yours up to follow along, or just sit back and watch. Now first, I just want to show you how to check out information about your assets, and we'll start with clips. So if I select a clip and then open up the inspector and then click on the information tab, up at the top we have a lot of metadata that defines the clip, and then down at the bottom we see the event that it lives in, the library that it lives in, as well as the iterations of media that it exists in, original and then optimized or proxy if I transcoded it. I can even click on this button here, Reveal in Finder, and that's going to go inside my package contents to my original media and show me my media file. And of course, I've said it many times, but just once more, don't touch your files inside of there. All right, now if I click on an event, you can see that the inspector doesn't show me anything. An event is just a repository, a bucket of media. But if I click on a library, I do get information, and this is important. It tells me where my media, my motion content, my cache, and my backups are located. So before you even create any new media in your project, you can set your desired locations here in the Library Properties pane. And here's where you would change that, Modify Settings. Let me describe what's what. First of all, media includes the media that you import, your original files, but it also includes transcoded media, which again are those optimized or proxy files that Final Cut creates to make working with your media easier or more efficient. Motion content is media that was created in Final Cut's sister program, Motion, things like effects and transitions and titles that you then bring into Final Cut to use. Cache files are all the files that Final Cut Pro X creates that aren't part of your main media files. So that includes your render files, your thumbnail images, your clip waveforms, and your analysis files. And backups are your backups of your library databases. These library databases contain metadata, not your actual media, so they aren't very big. But they're very important because they allow you to go back in time and find a project from yesterday or last week and then bring it forward into the current Final Cut environment. So by default, your media and your cache files are stored within your Final Cut library. You can change that location if you like, though. Your motion content is stored within the Motion Templates folder on your system, separate from your library, and your backups are stored in your Final Cut Backups folder, which is in your Movies folder on your system by default. So if for some reason you would like to change any of these locations, you certainly can. It will change the location for the media that I import or create from this point on. It doesn't affect the media that I've already imported or created. So that's how to find out information and set some of those important storage options. Now again, just as a reminder, in the previous movie, we talked about copying and moving events and clips between libraries, so be sure to watch that for all the basics on media management. But now I have a few extras I want to cover. Now, if I like, I can merge events. So let me show you this. Right now, I have 2 events within my training library. And if I take a look at this library at the Finder, I'll just right-click and choose Reveal in Finder. Here's my training library. And if I look inside, Show Package Contents, you see that I have 2 events, Training 1 and Demo 2. Now, if I wanted to bring those into one event, I'm simply going to click and then Shift-click to select them both. And then I can come up to File and Merge Events. Now Final Cut puts them together in one bucket. So again, if I Reveal in Finder on my library and then look inside, you can see that I no longer have my Training 1 event. I just have my Demo 2 event, and then everything is together in one bucket of media. So even though everything is living together, all of my keyword collections have been maintained. So my clips did not lose their connection to those tags or those keywords. I also want to look at the Consolidate command. If I have an event selected and I come up to File, notice that it says Consolidate Event Media. If I have a library chosen, it says Consolidate Library Media. And if I had a project chosen, it would say Consolidate Project Media. Consolidating my media takes all of the source media that I'm working on, which may be pointing to a variety of locations, and brings it all inside one library. That may be a good thing to do in general, but it's especially a good thing to do before you hand off the library to a collaborator. I'll just go through the motions so that you can see how this works. I have my library chosen. I'll come up to File, Consolidate Library Media, and here I can bring in the original, optimized, and proxy media that this library is dealing with all together inside of the training library. Now, mine already happens to be located in the training library, so I'll cancel this for now, but again, that can be a really nice solution when you're linking to external media folders. Now, finally, I want to circle back and talk about backups. Final Cut Pro X periodically backs up all library databases so that they can be restored in case you run into a problem. All this means is that anytime you want, you can open up a known good copy of your library from the Final Cut Backups folder. Now again, let me be clear, these backups do not include your media, just your library databases. So you should still absolutely back up your media files separately from this. So we can store our backup folder anywhere we wish, but as we know, ours are located in the Final Cut Backups folder in the Movies folder on our system. But if you wanted to restore a backed up version of your library, you just come up to File, Open Library, and From Backup. So right now it's asking me if I wanted to open up a previous version of the training library. And here I have two choices because I just created it. But I can also go to Other, and then here's my Movies folder, Final Cut Backups, and here are all of my options. So we've been working in the Project Reload Final Cut Pro X Essential Training Library for all of this course. And this is a time and date stamp. So 2016 is the year, 9/19 is the date, 13/22 is the time. So this is from earlier today. And all of these were from today, and then this one was from last night. So if I made a major mistake today and I wanted to go back to where I was last night, I could just open this library database. And I'll twirl this up to clean this up a little bit. But here it's opened up my Project Reload library, and it's time and date stamped. And I can either work in here, or I can climb in here and find the specific project that I want and move it to another library if I wish. So if this is the project that I needed, I could just drag this on over to my training library. So just a bit more on media management in the Final Cut environment. Between this and the last movie, you should have a nice foundation of how to work with libraries, events, and clips. In the next movie, we'll tackle project management.